Hello, friends and family. Today I want to tell you the story of my birthday bride. In just 2 days from now, on September the 8th, my bride of 55 years, Diane, will be celebrating another decade birthday, a significant one. And you could probably calculate that because she was born during World War II, as was I. Diane was born in Fort William, which today is called Thunder Bay, Ontario. And in her early years, her family moved to Beamsville with her grandparents, where they farmed, a fruit farm. She spent her earliest years driving tractor, binding up the grape branches that they have to tie up, and picking fruit, and even selling fruit along the side of the QEW when she was just 7 or 8 years old. And in high school, her folks moved back to Thunder Bay, or Fort William, it was still called then, to run a restaurant. It was called Palmer's Lunch, right across the road from the railway station at the time. She graduated from high school, and this is her graduation picture from the graduation prom that she attended, and then she stayed for an extra year and did a special commercial, as they called it, for secretarial skills. That was very, very significant for her because of what happened next. She was dreaming one night, and in her dream she saw the name London Bible Institute. She went to the couple who were her spiritual guides and disciplers from her church and said, "Is there such a place as London Bible Institute?" And her spiritual mentor said to her, "Oh yes, it's a good school. It's down in London, Ontario." She said, "Well, I really believe that God is telling me that I'm supposed to go to that school." So at 18 years of age, or maybe it was 19, she climbs on a train with her suitcase. Her mother sees her off and gives her a $10 bill to add to the little bit of cash she has in her wallet, and off she goes to London. Now the challenge was, she didn't know where the school was. She hadn't registered, but she was following what she believed God wanted her to do. She arrives at the train station, she hails a cab, and believe it or not, in those days the cabbies knew everything and everywhere. And she said, "Can you take me to London Bible Institute?" Which he did, and she walked into the school and said, "I'm Diane Palmer from Fort William. I'm here to go to school." And they said, "Well, did you register?" "No, I don't even know your address to send you mail to register." And they said, "Well, this is quite unusual, but we'll make a place for you." She had all of her education records and wanted to show them. They took her up to the girls' dorm, and there was one gal, Liz Late, who now is Liz Ben, living here in London too, who was there at the school, and Liz took her under her arms, and she lived in that dorm for the next 3 years. That very day, when she arrived, she went out to buy lunch with a little bit of cash that she had, because she had to make a deposit for her education. There was a $100 deposit required. This was the late August of 1959. And she saw in the newspaper, as she had her lunch in the London Free Press, an ad for the need of a secretary part-time afternoons just down the road at an insurance company. School was only going to be from early morning until noon every day, and so each afternoon the students had time to study and or work. And so she went down the street on that very day, and they hired her on the spot. And so she worked as a secretary in this company, insurance company in London, for 3 years, and put herself through school. In the last year, the business manager hired her to work at the school itself in the secretarial area, and this is what she looked like when I met her, because it was her last year. That was my first year. I had worked for a while after grade 13 and came to school, and who do I meet but Diane Palmer. And that's the connection. It was the end of that first year. After the two of us were in choir, we went on a choir tour together, and at the end of the year, she graduated as a Bachelor of Religious Education, and this was her graduation picture. Then she went, as her father wished, to Teachers College, and she found out that she loved teaching. She did really well at Teachers College and very easily got a job in London teaching here, and she taught for a year. And after that year, we decided it was time to get married. And so I was 1 year left at London College, and she was going to be teaching at the same school again. So on July the 3rd, 1965, we were married. And that begins the story of my birthday bride, because now I have lived with her for more than 55 years, and I want to read to you a description of her. The book of Proverbs was written by Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived, years and years and years ago. And the very end of his book of Proverbs, he talks about a virtuous and capable wife. And it's kind of the grand finale description of this wisdom book of old. Now, I'm reading to you. I want to read you this description because it suits my wife exactly. Almost every characteristic in here, at some time in her life that I've known her, she has exhibited or done. And I'm reading to you from the New Living Translation. It is a translation, but it reads like a paraphrase in modern English. So here's the last verses of Proverbs in chapter 31, and the title of this section is A Virtuous and Capable Wife. Who can find a virtuous and capable wife? She is more precious than rubies. Her husband can trust her, and she will greatly enrich his life. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. She finds wool and flax and busily spins it. She's like a merchant ship bringing her food from afar. She gets up before dawn to prepare breakfast for her household and plan the day's work for her servant girls. She goes to inspect a field and buys it. With her earnings, she plants a vineyard. She is energetic and strong, a hard worker. She makes sure her dealings are profitable. Her lamp burns late into the night. Her hands are busy spinning thread, her fingers twisting fiber. She extends a helping hand to the poor and opens her arms to the needy. She has no fear of winter for her household, for everyone has warm clothes. She makes her own bedspreads and dresses in fine linen and purple gowns. Her husband is well known at the city gates, where he sits with the other civic leaders. She makes belted linen garments and sashes to sell to the merchants. She is clothed with strength and dignity, and she laughs without fear of the future. When she speaks, her words are wise, and she gives instructions with kindness. She carefully watches everything in her household and suffers nothing from laziness. Her children stand and bless her. Her husband praises her. There are many virtuous and capable women in the world, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive, and beauty does not last. But a woman who fears the Lord will be greatly praised. Reward her for all she has done. Let her deeds publicly declare her praise. Almost every characteristic that's described of this woman at the end of the book of Proverbs describes my bride, Diane. Shortly after we were married, we went to the Philippines, working with Far East Broadcasting Company, and there she performed many tasks. as well as running her household and her family. She was a broadcaster. She did programs of music and also a friendship program that she and I did together every week. She was the compound hostess, hosting all of the guests who came to visit this large operation which we were part of. And, of course, assigning them for meals at many of the different homes around the circle that we had at the compound. And, of course, we entertained many of those people also in our home. And she did all of the cooking, even though she had helper girls at times. She did all of the cooking, looked after her family well. And she, as the scripture says, she got up early to make breakfast. The kids went to school at Faith Academy on a school bus that left at 6 o'clock in the morning, so you can believe what time she had to get up to get everybody ready to make breakfast and have them all off to school. This particular picture was the first birthday of Peachy Pie, as we called Melinda, our adopted Filipina daughter. She made a trip with me to China. I was doing some business as mission there, and she came with me. And she loves children so much that and being a teacher at heart as well, she's just constantly attracted to children. And this little Chinese gal was just so sweet, and she just couldn't help but give her a big hug. We moved from Manila, Philippines to Singapore. And by the time we're in Singapore, the kids are now as tall as their parents. And she's got 3 teenagers to deal with all of the time that she's there. And she's teaching English as a second language to some women from the Israeli embassy there who wanted to learn English. And she was teaching them from the book of Ruth. Tim graduated from Singapore American School there. And then we moved home to Canada to become the Canadian director for Open Doors Canada. And we had the family picture taken at that time, and you can see how the kids are growing up and how she is such a lovely mother to them and wife to me. In Canada, she became, again, a full-time teacher, this time teaching English as a second language to immigrant children who came to Mississauga, where we were living. She loved her kids, and the parents of these kids loved her because they knew that she was doing everything she could to help them to adjust and adapt to life in Canada and helping them in the best way that they possibly could. She also, of course, soon became a grandmother, and she loves her grandkids now. She has 11 of them, but in this picture they were young little guys and gals, and 3 of those in this picture are this week beginning university, and the other 2 are in high school. There are a total of 11 grandchildren that she loves so much. For 12 summers, we had a cottage in Harbourville, Nova Scotia on the Bay of Fundy. She loved it there. It was such a beautiful view out over the bay, watching the sunset every night. And we had a nice property, and she especially loved lupins. And we grew purple lupins in the front corner of our property. And this is where this picture was taken. In among the flowers that she loved so much. She also was a businesswoman, and for decades she has been a lover of Tupperware, and she's become a Tupperware consultant. And to this day, in fact, even as I record this, she is at her booth at the market here in London, Ontario, helping women understand how they can do things better in their kitchens and in their homes with Tupperware. And so Tupperware has been part of her life, as well as looking after a hungry husband. She also has enjoyed traveling, although she doesn't really like airplanes that much. but she has traveled the world even though she didn't plan to, and sometimes even when she didn't want to. This picture was taken as we headed out of Canada at the Toronto airport, going to Germany on our 50th wedding anniversary. Now, we had our celebration with the family here earlier at the end of June, and in early July, we were heading off to Germany because Open Doors Germany had asked me to speak at a conference that they were holding right on the day of our anniversary. Actually, it was the day after. And so the day of our anniversary, our 50th wedding anniversary, we did a one-day trip up and down the Rhine River. And it was absolutely spectacular. It was a wonderfully sunny day, and we enjoyed our 50th immensely, and then spent the weekend at this amazing conference, big conference that Open Doors Germany had put on. People are very important parts of Diane's life, and from children that she teaches to other people. One of her heroes is Johnny Erickson. And while in Nashville with me at an NRB convention, she got to meet and get her picture taken with Johnny. But, you know, her life has been so characteristic of all that I read to you from Proverbs. And one of the theories about that is that it is because she was touched by an angel. Yes, she has even met Roma Downey, the woman who starred in the TV program called Touched by an Angel. And she has had her picture with Roma as well. But I think if I had to say what gives her the greatest joy, and what does she spend most of her time thinking about and working for, it's her family. And now, this is what her family looks like. These are the results of her womb and her heart. She is absolutely an amazing woman. And I close with a paraphrase of one of the verses I read to you from Proverbs. There are many virtuous and capable women in the world, but Diane, you surpass them all.